Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. My name is Andrew, coming to you from the beautiful Carolinas. Today's topic is going to be the escalation games of the narcissist. Think about that for a minute. Everyone, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. So I've created so many videos over the years about the games the narcissist plays. They play the waiting games. They play the spying games. They play the financial abuse games, the manipulation games. These are the escalation games of the narcissist. You see, it always starts off small with the narcissist. It starts off as a tiny little paper cut, then another paper cut, and another paper cut. Before you know it, you're bleeding from all over. Now, that's kind of a graphic example, but things always escalate with the narcissist. The narcissist knows what they do. They're a master manipulator. And what they want to do is escalate as much as they possibly can with the target and with as many people as they can. Because the narcissist goes through life like a bull in a china shop. They want to destroy. They do not want to create. They want to trap. They do not want to elevate. The narcissist needs people, and they need to keep people placed and stuck and trapped in that zombie-like, trance-like state, which is known as the narcissistic fog. Now, when things escalate with somebody, usually what happens is, let's say there are two people. And let's say they're both healthy and stable people. In other words, not a narcissist. Let's say one of the two people is not in a good mood. Well, maybe those two people are conversing and maybe the conversation gets a little heated. And then after a couple minutes or maybe a couple seconds, I can't tell you, one of the two says, whoa, hey, let's slow down here. It's not such a big thing. Can't we just sit down and talk about it a little bit more? There's no reason to be escalating. And then the other person, because they're healthy or stable, they probably will catch themselves and say, whoa, sorry about that. What was I thinking? I got a little carried away there. Then the two people will discuss whatever it was, and they'll come to resolution talking about it, not escalating things, not taking things personal, not increasing the octaves or the volume of their voice, not blaming another person, not going from 0 to a 10 in lightning speed, not looking to destroy another person's mindset and not to give them the time of day. In other words, not to listen to them. But again, that is a healthy, stable person, because when you're in a stable relationship, things usually don't escalate. Usually one of the two of you apologizes to the other one, and it's usually not the same person apologizing over and over and over again, and the other person sitting back, soaking it in and saying, yep, I control this person. They're going to apologize for things they did do. They're going to apologize for things they didn't do. They're going to apologize for things that they didn't even know that I did. And they're going to apologize because they're going to try and keep the peace. See, that's what the narcissist does. The narcissist wants somebody who they can push their buttons with over and over and over again. That's why these relationships all end in a place which is called Destructionsville. That's why all these relationships have an expiration date. And that's why these relationships always escalate. So let's talk about money for a minute. Well, let's say that you and the narcissist were living together. Roommates, maybe you were siblings, maybe you were romantic, who knows what you were, friends, I can't tell you. But over time, what happened? Well, the narcissist probably was going through your food or using your internet service or using your car and your gas without giving you gas money or helping you pay for the repairs. They were probably also doing things like keeping you awake, or slamming doors, or coming in the house late at night and playing music. And these things started off small and slowly, and over time, what did they do? That's right, they escalated. And just like each and every narcissistic relationship, like I shared a moment ago, how they all escalate and then they all end, well, this same thing happened with you. And that's only with one example, when you were living with the narcissist. Again, I've shared over the years, what does the narcissist love more than money? They love your money. And they will gladly escalate how much money you are providing for them, how they don't have money, how it's always the woe is me card, the victim card, and you have so much more money than they do, or you earn more than them, or you have an inheritance from 401k, or you own so much property, whatever it is. The narcissist does not want you to succeed. They do not want you to achieve things. They do not want you to be yourself. That's why when you're in these relationships, you lose your sense of self. You lose your identity to the narcissist. You become a shell of yourself, and you become the walking apology, the unpaid helper, the servant, the indentured servant, if you will, and the person who becomes the cook, the cleaner, the person who pays the narcissist way through life, to the detriment of your own. And that's why things always escalate with the narcissist. You must remember this. The narcissist knows what they're doing, and they also know that they can push somebody's buttons more and more and more, essentially escalate that relationship to have it eventually fold, have it eventually end. That they have other sources of supply lined up, because they always have and they always will. And some of these sources are recycled, some are new shiny objects, just like you were or I was, and some are even toxic people, even more toxic than the narcissist is. But they know that eventually the person, which was you and it was me, we will get burned out. And eventually we will either get discarded, or we will stay existing in that zombie-like, trance-like state, or we will be strong enough and we will kick the narcissist to the curb. Any way you cut it, those are the only three outcomes from each and every narcissistic relationship. And I'll say it again. 1, you get discarded. 2, you stay stuck in the zombie-like, trance-like state for the rest of your life, and that's a lot of people. Or 3, you end the relationship yourself, and then you heal and heal properly. However you cut it, those are the 3 outcomes. There's no other outcome. That's why with each and every video I create over the years, I've suggested, and I'll suggest it again right now, to go no contact. Block that person, delete them, remove all flying monkeys and people associated with them. If the narcissist understands or recognizes or finds out that there's one avenue of communication open to you, maybe today, maybe in a month, maybe in a year, maybe in 30 years, they will try their best, if they want to try to attempt to communicate with you, which is known as a Hoover. Again, a Hoover doesn't mean the narcissist wants to get back with you. You shouldn't be thinking that that's the case, because it's not the case. What the narcissist is trying to do is test the temperature of you, to see if you've healed, to see if you've gone no contact, to see if you've seen behind the mask, and to see if you stop participating in the escalation games of the narcissist. Now, that's one example I shared with you, money and being closer with them. Another example would be this. Let's say triangulation. In the very early days of the relationship, you didn't know what triangulation was. It's my least favorite thing that these creatures use. One of their most manipulating tactics or techniques that they utilize. And there are dozens of techniques and tactics, but that's my least favorite one. And truth be told, they're all nasty. But having said that, you didn't know what triangulation was. So in the beginning, what happened? They were probably triangulating you. You didn't even know it, because you didn't know what it was. And then when they realized that you didn't even know what it was, then they probably flashed it in your face a little bit more. In other words, perhaps they were triangulating you using the smartphone or maybe texting, and you didn't take a bite. You didn't give them what they needed, which was supply. So maybe next time they did it at a restaurant with the wait staff, and you still couldn't figure it out. You're like, what is this? I don't understand this. I thought we were in love. I thought we were together. Well, then maybe one day you came home after work and there's a trainer in the back of your house about 1 foot away from your spouse who turned out to be the narcissist. And maybe they were just doing something. Maybe they weren't. I can't tell you. But now you're fuming. You're steaming. You can't figure it out. What happened? Well, you've just been triangulated because you didn't take the bait the first 2 times because you couldn't recognize it. Now you have a front row view of what will be in the future. Insert new supply. You see, that's how it escalates. These are examples, and I know that you know what I'm talking about because you made it this far in the video. One more example I'll share with you of how it escalates with the narcissist. Say you're having a conversation, and let's say this is how I open the video, by the way. Say you're having a conversation and the narcissist doesn't agree with you. These are early days when you're being love bombed, when you're being groomed, when you are being treated like the next new shiny object, and everything's puppies and rainbows with you, and the narcissist is having fun grooming you and playing with you. And for a moment, they think that you actually are the answer or the cure, and they think that you're everything they've been looking for. Truth is, that lasts about a half a second, and then they realize, wow, I have an empath here. This is going to be Thanksgiving Day dinner for the next 5, 6, 10 years. But in the meantime, I'll play the game and I'll love bomb this person. So when they were doing that, let's say the two of you had a conversation and you guys disagreed. Well, in the early days, they would probably say, oh, okay, whatever. And they wouldn't think twice about it. They would let it go. And you would be thinking, wow, okay, that's good. They have their opinions. I have mine. Everything's good. Well, fast forward maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. I can't tell you when. As soon as the love bomb was over, I can tell you that. Then that same conversation would pop up again. And then they would look at you and maybe they would go from a 0 to a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. 0 is you're having a conversation. You're being calm, stoic, centered. You're within yourself and you're communicating. You're listening and you're going back and forth. A 5 is when it's getting kind of heated. A 10 is a rage fit. But I'm referring to a 5 now, so it's getting heated. And now the narcissist is not allowing you to talk. And they're telling you, I don't want to hear it. You're wrong, blah, blah, blah. Then they maybe not slam the door, but maybe they close the door and jump in their car and go to work. Well, these are early days. Remember, you're now in the devaluation stage after the love bomb. And what used to be a conversation that would stay at a 0 because you didn't know better and it hadn't escalated yet, now it's jumped from a 0 to a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Well, fast forward again. Now, that same conversation, let's say in 6 months or a year, whenever it was, or maybe about a different topic, but it's a disagreement between you and the toxic person who turned out to be a narcissist. And again, you didn't know that they were a narcissist because you weren't taught this in school. But now you guys have a disagreement. And what happens? Now it doesn't go from a 0 to a 1 to a 5. It goes right to a 10. Now maybe something is thrown at you. Maybe now you're being called curse words. Maybe now doors are being slammed. Maybe now your iPhone or your cell phone's being smashed on the ground. Maybe there's a hole being punched in the wall. Maybe a window becomes shattered. Maybe an object gets thrown at the TV. Maybe this person you're considering screamed from the top of their lungs and they didn't care. They actually wanted the neighbors to hear about this. Why would they want the neighbors to hear about it? Because the smear campaign was already underway. You were being painted in not a good light. And now they had a reason because the whole stage had been set on the orchestra that they were getting ready to perform, which was the destruction of your life. And now that rage fit, or that conversation, I should say, went from a 0 to a 5, all the way to a 10. And now you're being screamed at the top of the other person's lungs, who turns out to be the narcissist. They are beet red. They're an inch away from your face, probably spitting in your face, taunting you, saying, go on, do it, do it. I have witnesses. And you are scratching your head saying, what are you talking about? All this conversation was about, I like my coffee with a little bit of milk or sugar in it, and you gave it to me black. Like, what's the big deal? Or flip it. I made you coffee, and I put the cream or sugar in it, and that's how you like it. But today, somehow you want it black? Well, I don't get it. Like, why are you yelling at me? Well, again, back then you didn't know what you know now, but now you know that the narcissist needed to destroy and blow up that particular morning or whatever time it was, and the escalation was already well in place. You see, when you're with these people, the toxic people, you can never have a decent, common, level, two-way, healthy communication with them. Never going to happen. They can fake it. They can act like they're paying attention and they really are listening to, but no, they're just playing the game. They're playing a part. And you, back then, were burning up your energy. You were giving them the playbook to you. You were letting them know about your mindset. You were letting them know everything about you. You were essentially an open book, but you didn't know it back then. And that's why when you're in these relationships, they always escalate more and more and more. And this is a not fun fact to share. None of this is, but it's all reality. The more you became accustomed to the toxicity in that narcissistic relationship, meaning doors being slammed or verbal abuse or financial abuse or being ghosted or being hung up on or being walked 30 feet in front of or being triangulated and so much more, the more you got accustomed to that, the more you got used to it. The more you got used to it, the more you turned a blind eye. The more you turned a blind eye, which means you became numb to it and just got used to it. You were so beaten down, that's how your life was. The more that happened, the less the narcissist was looking at you as the person that was giving them the supply that they needed. Essentially, they were breaking you. That's what they were doing. They were breaking you every which way to Sunday, and they knew it. And the more they broke you and defeated you and kept you trapped in that zombie-like, trance-like state, the less you had to offer. The less you had to offer, the more it was going to escalate. The more it escalated, eventually the ending or the discard of that relationship was right around the corner. And that's how it happens. What I'm trying to share with you before I close the video is, now that you know what you know, or now that you're learning what you're acquiring, which is the wisdom on the narcissistic abusive cycle, you really need to have your boundaries in place, and you really should not accept or tolerate poor behavior from anybody. I mean, your coworker, your neighbor, your spouse, your adult child, your friend, a person in a hobby group or community, your teacher, your classmate, whomever. There's no room for this because it adds up over time. It is akin to death by 1,000 paper cuts. And that's how damaging the narcissistic relationship is, which is why this is the relationship you need to heal from. And you need to understand the escalation games of the narcissist, they will never stop. It will keep going more and more and more, which is why you need to cut the 4 ties: the emotional tie, the financial tie, the physical tie, and the spiritual tie from the narcissist and from any of those parasites that were hovering or clinging around you, swarming around you. So everyone, that's the video. I hope you liked it. I loved doing it from the beautiful Carolinas. This is Andrew. Namaste. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, no matter where you are on the planet. You are not alone. I love you all, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. And everything always escalates with the narcissist. What worked yesterday won't work today. What works today won't work tomorrow, because the narcissist is always looking to fill that bottomless pit within them. They're always looking to fill that void with supply, with other people. And while they're trying to get other people on the hook, they are twisting the knife in the current source or sources of supply, meaning this: anyone, and I mean anyone, who is in communication with the narcissist will be punished one way or the other. Every single person is susceptible to the abuse, to the manipulating techniques, and to the poor behaviors that the narcissist dishes out, because the narcissist can't change, they won't change, they don't want to change, and they don't know how to change. All they want to do is to abuse, manipulate, trick, and trap people, and have that relationship escalate and escalate and escalate. So the narcissist gets everything, all the goodness out of that person, and they dump all the toxicity into the vehicle, into the target, into the supply source. You are not a supply source. You are a beautiful, bright, shining light. Remember that. Believe in yourself the way I believe in you. I love you all. God bless you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Bye.